What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Love in Paradise Season 2, Episode 1, The Trouble with Two Tops. This season of Love in Paradise had originally aired on Paramount Plus, and so I wasn't able to watch it, and so I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to watch it, I'm not going to be able to review it, and I was really bummed out about it because I did watch and review Season 1, and I really did enjoy the show, and I was looking forward towards Season 2. And so when I saw that it wasn't going to come on TLC, but it was going to come on some streaming service, I was like, damn, I really missed out. But it came on TLC. So now I finally get to review it, even though I might be behind the eight ball. Probably, the whole world has already seen Season 2. Well, I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to review it. So let's start off with Danielle and Johan. Danielle is 42 years old. She is from New York, New York. She's a high school teacher, and she's also a holistic and wellness coach. Okay, that's a mouthful. She practices the Ifa religion. She grew up Catholic, but she abandoned Catholicism to explore other types of religions and other types of spiritualities. And she has settled so far on the Ifa religion, which is derived from the West African Yoruba tribe. She has a 20-something-year-old son, which we did not get to meet in this episode. I don't know if he's going to be making an appearance, but she does have a 20-something-year-old son. She travels to the DR quite frequently, and on one of her trips to the DR is when she met Johan. Now, Johan, he is 32 years old. He's a personal trainer, and he's also a gym manager at the resort where I guess they met and where she had stayed, and that's where they met. He is 6'7", y'all. He's nearly 7 feet tall, and she's not even 5 feet tall. So she says she's only 4'11". She claims that there's a language barrier between them. I guess her Spanish is kind of choppy and he doesn't really speak much English. But when she did speak Spanish to him, I thought her Spanish was, it was pretty good. It was enough to carry on the conversation and for her to get her points across. But we'll get to all of that later. They've been together for a total of 5 months. They're already engaged, but they've only spent 2 weeks physically with each other. And they're already engaged. So 3 days before she's supposed to go to the DR, because she plans to go to the DR to actually get married. So 3 days before she leaves for her trip, she meets up with her really close friends. And I think it was about 3 women in her book club. So she tells her friends everything about Johan. Now, what I think is really interesting, because I know that they had recorded for a very long time. How do your friends not already know? Because I would think that before you knew that you were going to be on this show, you had already met Johan, and it would have been only natural to tell your closest girlfriends that you have met somebody in the DR and you're planning on marrying him. I'm assuming. So I just don't understand how her friends had no idea that this was going on. So I'm just a little bit confused about how all of that, the chronological order of things, how everything worked out. Okay. So she's meeting up with her friends, and she tells her friends everything about Johan. They had no idea that this was going on, that she had this man in her life, that she was engaged, that she was going back to get married. They had no idea. So her friends are obviously really shocked, and they try to talk her out of it. They're not understanding why she has to get married so quickly. And so they try to talk her into, can you hold off on getting married until you get to know each other better? And she tells her friends, no, this is going to happen because we're trying to have a baby. I'm 42 years old. I'm running out of time. And so we have to do this. We have to get married, and start trying to have a baby. One of her friends asks her, well, why don't you have a baby without getting married? And she says, what? She wants to have like a traditional type of family, where you get married and you have a baby and you stay together and you raise this child together. So she wants to do things a little bit more traditional. She tried it the other way, a baby without a husband. I guess she didn't like that. And now she wants to have, the full shebang. She wants the baby and the husband. So the friends think, okay, so then she tells her her friends ask her about, the intimacy between them. And she was like that, that department is very well taken care of. There's no issues there. She said that, she was just talking about certain parts of his anatomy and how he's not just well endowed, he's like overly endowed. So she's like, everything is fine right there. So then she tells her friends about Johan's tattoo. She said that he had gotten a tattoo of a dollar sign and she really, really didn't like it. And she had expressed to Johan that she did not like this tattoo at all. So he went ahead and had it covered up with another tattoo. And so first her friends were like, okay, what kind of a mentality does he have where he would think it was a good idea to get a tattoo of a dollar sign? And her friends thought that, because he got this tattoo after he met Danielle, that he saw Danielle as his meal ticket or as his sugar mama. And that is what the tattoo symbolized. Like he felt like, okay, I've made it now. I found my cash register. So let me go ahead and get this tattoo to symbolize our relationship, that this is all about money. Not sure why he got the dollar sign tattoo, but he covered it up. So her point was, this is how much this man loves me, that he was willing to go get a whole nother tattoo to cover up the one that I didn't like. But her friends were like focused on what would initially drive him to even get a dollar sign tattoo. So, before she goes on her trip, she meets with her spiritual advisor, and she calls him Baba. So she goes to meet her spiritual advisor and he does a reading for her. And so when he does the reading, he's trying to connect with the spirits, and the spirits are going to advise him what path she's going on. And so he tells her that the spirits are telling him that Johan is a womanizer, and Johan is a very flirtatious, he's not just a womanizer, he's a very flirtatious womanizer. And so in order to combat that, her spiritual advisor tells her that she needs to, as soon as she gets to the DR, she needs to plant a banana tree, and then she needs to put eggs and fruits around the banana tree. And this is going to tame Johan's womanizing spirit. I'm not even laughing at the religion. I'm not laughing at the ritual. I'm laughing at the fact that, girl, you needed a spiritual advisor to tell you that, because Johan is, he's a decent looking guy. He's extremely tall. He is, easy on the eyes. He has a nice body, and he works at a resort where he is surrounded by women from all over the world who probably see him as something extremely exotic. But you need a spiritual advisor to tell you that there may be some issues with him flirting with other women. Okay, girl. So the fruits and the eggs are supposed to be like gifts to the spirit, to appease them so that they can do what you want them to do. So she's really, really into this whole spiritualism. And also her spiritual advisor tells her to stop eating peanuts. She doesn't know why, but she's just going to blindly follow what her spiritual advisor tells her, and she's going to stop eating peanuts. So she finally lands in the DR. They reunite her and Johan, and he literally has to like pick her up just to be able to kiss her because the height difference is just so extreme. So he picks her up, kisses her, hugs her. They have this really beautiful reunion, and then they get to the hotel. And they're going to be spending a couple of days at the hotel, and then they're going to go travel to the town where he's from to visit his family. So as soon as she gets into the hotel, she just starts saging everything. She's saging the room to get rid of any type of, evil spirits. She's saging Johan. She's just like, I don't know where you've been. So she starts saging Johan. And Johan says that when he first learned of her religion, he thought she was a witch. So, she has this rose quartz crystal thing, and she accidentally dropped it in the hotel room, and she was really bummed out about that. Like, it really affected her that her rose crystal dropped and it cracked right down the middle, because she thinks that is a forewarning of what's to come. So she's really worried. So at dinner, they have a very serious conversation. They talk about babies, and so she's like, you know what, I'm 42 years old, I'm running out of time, so the possibility of us having a baby, it may not happen. And he says, if you believe in God and if you have faith in God, anything is possible. So he's very optimistic that she's going to be able to get pregnant, and she is more realistic on that end. And then they start talking about finances. So she was asking him, are you getting ready for the wedding? Are you getting flowers? Blah, blah, blah. He says, yes. He says, I put a down payment on my suit and I need more money to finish paying off the balance. And so she asked him, do you have the money to pay off the balance? And he says, no, I don't. So then she says to him, well, if you cannot even pay for a suit, how are you going to be able to pay for a baby and raise a child if you can't even afford to pay for a suit? And she tells him, I don't want you to think that I'm going to be paying for everything. And so you need to figure out what you're going to do with your finances to start being more financially responsible and to contribute more financially in this relationship. She tells him straight up, she did not mince any words. She did not beat around the bush. She was like, you need to start making more money if this is what you want to do. If you want to have a baby so bad, you need to figure out how to make more money. So they had I liked that conversation. She laid it all out for him. They talked about the realistic side of her conceiving at the age of 42. And that's really cool that he's going to keep his faith in the Lord that they're going to conceive, because I mean, she's 42. I think there's still a possibility. She's not completely out of the park. You know, she's still within that range where she does have a chance of having a baby, having a couple of babies, you know, at that. And they talked about finance and having a conversation about finances. She's telling him what she's expecting. She's telling him what's bothering her, you know, and I really enjoyed watching that, because a lot of the times these people on these shows don't have the conversations that need to be had. So later on, they go back to their room and, you know, they're about to do what it do. And so she has to go through a ritual before they, you know, make it happen, because she wants to increase her chances of having a baby. So she's like putting drops in his mouth, putting drops in her mouth. She's lighting candles. She's doing all, I mean, she's doing the most. But hey, you know, this is what she does. This is what makes her happy. And she says this is just a part of the whole manifestation, because when you do these things to get what you want, you already have it in your mind that these things are going to help you get what you want. Moving on to Carlos and Valentine. So Carlos is 28 years old. He lives in Colombia. He's 28. He's a decent looking guy. Okay. He's a very decent looking guy, but he is a hard 28. I was like, 28? Damn. He's lived, a hard life or something. So he is working out when we see him on the beach, and he says that working out helps him with his insecurities. He says he grew up in a very conservative town in Colombia. He had a lot of insecurities about who he was, because he found out, you know, at an early age that he was gay. And so that kind of like was something that he was struggling with. But working out, all of that, it helps him with his insecurities. His family does not know that he's gay. So I guess they're going to be finding out pretty soon, because he's on a show, you know, an internationally televised show. So they will be finding out soon. Now, he is involved with a man from LA. His name is Valentine, but he goes by Valentine. He is 46 years old. He is an HR executive, but his hustle, he says, is songwriting and producing. And when we meet Valentine, he's in the recording studio and he's singing a song. And one of the lyrics in the song is, "She looking real sweet right down to the ass cheeks." Oh my God. All right. So he tells us that his, he didn't come out, but his parents found out that he was gay. He didn't tell us how they found out, but they found out that he was gay. And once they found out, they kicked him out. I think he was around 18 years old when they kicked him out. So he was scrolling online one day and he was just scrolling through. He says, looking at the boys, and he ran across a picture of Carlos and he liked what he saw. He reached out to Carlos. Carlos reached back out to him. They both liked what each other saw. And so the rest is history. So they've been dating now for about a year and a half, but they have never met physically. Everything has been through video calls, FaceTime, internet, all of that. So he meets up with a couple of his friends, and his friends say that Valentine is extremely hot tempered. He has a really, really bad temper. And they know that Carlos also has a bad temper. So the friends are like, the two of these together is just going to be complete and utter chaos, because they both are very, short tempered people. then they start having this conversation about tops. Now both him and Carlos are tops, which is going to be a problem. Neither one of them is verse, neither one of them is a bottom. They're both, very strong tops. So Valentine is like, I don't know what we're going to do, how we're going to solve that. So his solution is to introduce a third party into their relationship. But he had brought that idea up to Carlos, and Carlos was like, hell to the no, we're not going to be doing that. So he doesn't know how this is going to be solved. So Valentine tells his friends that when he goes to Colombia, he does plan on proposing to Carlos when he meets him. Of course, the friends are like, hell no, that is not a good idea. Y'all don't really know each other. Y'all have only been communicating, online. You haven't really spent time with one another. You don't know how y'all are going to be getting along with one another. Just please don't do it. Give it more time. And he said in his ways, he's like, nope, this is what I want to do. And this is what I'm going to do. This is the man for me. So Carlos meets up with his friends and they're having a conversation about the whole top thing. And he tells his friends that Valentine had asked him if they could bring a third party into the relationship. And he had told Valentine that no, he did not want that at all. He does not want to share his man. And so his friends have some pretty funny suggestions on, how to solve the whole top issue. So anyway, so he tells his friends that he wants to introduce Valentine to his sister. I guess maybe out of all of the family, maybe the sister is probably the most open-minded and he feels more comfortable coming out to her. So he wants to introduce Valentine to his sister first, but he's still very nervous about it because he's not quite sure how his sister will react. I feel like maybe his family might already know that Valentine is gay because he probably never had a girlfriend, probably was never in a relationship with a woman, probably never brought home a female. They probably already know. I mean, he's probably worried about nothing. Not to say that they're going to be like accepting it with open arms and celebrating it, but he's probably not going to get the pushback that he thinks he's going to get. Okay, so Valentine, he's getting ready for his trip to Colombia. He had been wanting to travel to Colombia for a while, but because of C-19 and travel restrictions, he wasn't able to. But now he says he's vaccinated. He is ready to go see his man. And his friend who drove him to the airport was like, are you still really going to be proposing to him? And Valentine is like, yes, I still plan on proposing to my man. Yes. So he lands in Colombia. And I thought this was a really sweet reunion. It was electric. Okay. It was electric when they, met each other. There was like an instant attraction between them. It was a beautiful, reunion. And I was surprised that Valentine was bigger physically because it looked to me as if Carlos would have been, I was surprised that Carlos was the one that was physically bigger, not necessarily in size, but like in height. And I would have thought that Valentine would have been the taller one, but no, Carlos was a little bit taller than Valentine. Valentine had brought this really big panda for him. So yeah, it was a nice reunion. And like I said, they were very attracted to each other. And then Valentine smelled Carlos's beard. I was like, what the hell is going on here? What's happening? But he said that his beard smelled good, so he was pleased. So they rent a car to get to Carlos's apartment from the airport, and it was Valentine that was driving. And I didn't understand why Valentine would be the driver because he's unfamiliar with the roads in Colombia. Like, what? Why didn't Valentine, and I know there's a reason why, but why didn't they tell us the reason of why Valentine wasn't driving in his own city, where he was familiar with the roads and all of that. So they get to the apartment and, Carlos has, the apartment all set up for Valentine's, to welcome Valentine. He's got balloons and he's got the little table with the champagne flutes and the champagne, to celebrate Valentine's arrival. And so Carlos pours the champagne, and Valentine says in his little confessional, he was like, I had already told him that I don't drink. So I'm hoping that he had gotten a non-alcoholic beverage. beverage. So they drink the champagne, and Carlos was like, no, excuse me, Valentine was like, are you sure there's no alcohol in this? And Carlos was like, yeah, this is champagne. There is alcohol in it. And so Valentine was like, dude, I told you, I don't drink. And so Valentine's like, oh, okay, I didn't know you meant you don't drink. I thought you just don't drink to the point where you're drunk, but you still drank. Like you still, took a sip here and there. And Valentine says, no, I don't drink at all, period. And so he was a little bit disappointed about that. And Carlos was offended by Valentine's reaction because he felt like Valentine was kind of rude about it. And I didn't take it as him being rude. I took it as he was a little bit frustrated that Carlos was not paying attention when he had told him that he just doesn't drink, period. And I don't know how you can misunderstand someone telling you, I don't drink. To me, I don't drink means I don't drink at all. I don't know, but that kind of put a little damper in the mood, but just a bit. And so Valentine explains, how alcohol affected his family when he was growing up. It was never a good thing when certain adults in his family would start drinking excessively. It always ended badly. And so that's why he stays away from alcohol, period. So Carlos was like, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. But Valentine did appreciate the effort, but Carlos still felt like, Valentine complaining about the alcohol kind of ruined the mood a little bit. But I didn't necessarily agree with that. So here we have, we're moving on to Ariana and Sherlon. And, this couple, they were there in season 1. I think there's another couple from season 1, which we haven't gotten to them yet. But Ariana and Sherlon, I remember them from season 1. Ariana had traveled to Jamaica with her sister, and she had met Sherlon at the resort that they were staying at because Sherlon works at the resort there. It was lust at first sight. They hooked up, and then when she went back to America, to Illinois, she found out that she was pregnant. So season 1 was her going back and forth to Jamaica because she was pregnant and trying to figure out what the hell are we going to do. And they decided that they were going to go through with having the baby, but as far as their own relationship, that ended with a big fat question mark. Not really sure where they were going together as a couple. So he was supposed to get she wanted to do the fiancé visa, the 90-day fiancé visa to get married. And eventually he'll move to America with her and they'll raise this child together. That was her plan. He was not ready to get married. He was really adamant with her. Like, I am not ready to get married and do not pressure me into getting married. So when she had traveled to Jamaica, after she, found out she was pregnant, she traveled to Jamaica. She was 6 months pregnant. And so because he didn't want to do the marriage visa, he opted to do the tourist visa, where he was going to be able to go to America to be there for the birth on a tourist visa and then return back to Jamaica. Unfortunately, they ran out of time because even though she was 6 months pregnant, when she went back to the United States, she went into labor early and she delivered the baby early. So there was absolutely no time for him to get the documents together, to get the visa, and to be there for the birth. The baby came prematurely. So that's where they're at now. So he has never met his son, and it is the baby's 10 months old now. So her plan is to go back to Jamaica for Sherlon to meet his son for the very first time and for them to figure out what are they going to do with their own relationship. Now, she is desperate to be with this man. And I remember I got on her case. She's a smart cookie. Ariana is a smart cookie, but she doesn't want to be, I feel like she's got this fear of like being a statistic. She wants to beat the odds. She doesn't want to be a single mom. Okay. Even though she has the help of her mom, her sister, the help and support of her family with the baby, she wants Sherlon to step up and be a full-time dad. And the only way for him to be a full-time dad is for him to be around his son full-time. And the only way for that to happen is for him to come to the United States. And the only way for that to happen, for him to come to the United States and start working on his residency and then his citizenship, is for them to get married. But she doesn't want to have like a marriage, like a fake marriage. She wants to have like a real marriage where they have real feelings for one another. She wants to be with this man desperately. And I don't know if she really wants to be with Sherlon or if she just wants to have this complete family package. And she might as well do it with Sherlon because that's the father of her child. because I don't really see what she sees in Sherlon. Sherlon, to me, from season one, I remember him being rude to her, being very abrasive with her. They got into many, many, many arguments. And I didn't think that they were going to make it as a couple. I didn't really see a future with them being a couple. I didn't see it at all. But she's still hanging on to that hope, because when we see her now in season two, she's FaceTiming him, and she says that when she's FaceTiming him, she asks him, "Are you excited about seeing your son?" And he was like, "Of course." And then she goes, "Well, aren't you excited about seeing me?" And then he just laughed it off. And then she says, "Well, this is your typical response every time I ask you about, us and how you feel about me and if you want to see me. And, you always just kind of brush it off." And then he tells her, "Look, when you get here, we'll figure out what we need to do with our relationship. Only time will tell what's going to happen with this." He doesn't want to give her any kind of definitive answer as far as his feelings for her. He's worried that if he does not go ahead and concede to her and be in a relationship with her, she's going to keep the baby away from him. That's what he's worried about, and he wants to be a part of his son's life. But he feels like if he doesn't give her what she wants, which is a romantic relationship that's going to lead to marriage, she's not going to bring the baby around to see him anymore. And I'm just like, I don't know what y'all want us to say, because I mean, this is what happens when you kind of, anyways, it is what it is. This is how the cookie crumbles. It is what it is. She needs to probably just stop talking about having a romantic relationship with him and just let things develop naturally, whichever way they're going to develop. Whether it's just going to be a friendship, just a co-parenting thing, or something romantic. I think she needs to stop talking about the relationship, and she needs to stop asking him, "So what's going to happen with us, and how do you feel about me, and where are we going with this relationship, and do you see yourself married to me?" I think she needs to stop with all of that, because it's putting a lot of pressure on him and it's turning him away from her. It's pushing him away from her. So I think she needs to stop with all of that and just be natural and just let the relationship go wherever it's meant to go, wherever that is, and just be satisfied with wherever it goes. Moving on to Abby, Gabby, and Frankie. Okay, Abby and Gabby live in Mexico. Frankie lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Frankie is 45 years old, from Nashville, and he's in customer service. Abby is 34 years old. She lives in Mexico, and she's an assistant to an engineer. She's in a relationship with Gabby. She's in a relationship with Gabby. They're bisexual. So when Frankie showed up on the scene, he traveled to Mexico for a vacation with, his friends. When he came on the scene, they both were like really drawn to him. Okay. They were both really drawn to him. And so they had a grand old time in Mexico, right? He was there for about 5 days and they were living it up. I liked what his nephew said, because at some point there was a scene where his nephews come over, and this is another one that kind of confused me. So he's telling his nephews for the very first time about what happened in Mexico. And I'm like, wouldn't you have already told them that when it was happening in real time? But anyways, so he tells his nephews, I went to Mexico and I met these two chicks, Abby and Gabby, they're together, but then they included me into their little dynamic, and it went down. And I liked how his nephews said, they didn't say anything like menage a trois or anything like that. They said, "Oh, so y'all got really exotic." I like that term. And he was like, "Yeah, we were getting exotic down there in Mexico." So when the trip was over and he came back to Nashville, him and Abby kind of continued on without Gabby. So they continued on and they began developing feelings for one another, him and Abby. So he started falling in love with Abby, and now he wants to propose to Abby and bring her to the United States on some type of a fiancé visa, I'm assuming, bring her back to the United States and start this life with Abby in America. Okay. So then we have a scene where it's Abby and Gabby. They're waiting so Frankie plans on going to Mexico to propose to Abby and to basically give Gabby the boot and be like, like Trey Songz, Mr. Steal Your Chick, and take Abby back with him to the United States. And then Gabby's just going to have to deal with it. So there's a scene with Abby and Gabby. They're on the beach and they're waiting for Frankie's arrival. They know he's going to be coming into town soon. So they're having a conversation, and Gabby says how much she really enjoyed spending time with Frankie, and she was excited about Frankie coming back and seeing Frankie again. And she says that I wish that my English was better, because Abby speaks better English than her. So Abby and Frankie were able to converse more one-on-one. And then when Frankie went back to the United States, she noticed that Abby and Frankie were still carrying on the telephone. So Gabby says, because I hear you and Frankie talking, but I don't understand what y'all are saying. And so I feel really left out whenever y'all talk on the phone. And so Abby is feeling some kind of way, because she knows that her and Frankie are developing feelings for one another. And she knows that Frankie plans on continuing a one-on-one relationship with just her and not with Gabby. Now, Abby says that her ultimate goal is to get to the United States with Frankie and then eventually include Gabby and bring Gabby over. I don't think that's in Frankie's plan. I think Frankie just wants Abby and not Gabby. Why do their names have to be Abby and Gabby? So that's where we stand with them. We don't know exactly how Gabby's going to take it. We don't know exactly what they're going to tell her. But it seems like because Abby said that she wants both of them in her life. She does not want to let go of Gabby. And so she wants to have both of them in her life. So we'll see how that goes. My only question to you, Frankie, my little pudding pop, how much money are you sending them on a monthly basis? How much? That's all I want to know. Thank you so much for joining me in this review. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please do not forget to rate the video. If you like this content, do not forget to subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.